Monterey County spans over 3,500 square miles and is known for its abundance of county, state, and national parks. Miles of world-famous pristine coastline, home to the nation's largest marine sanctuary and the Monterey Bay Aquarium, and is one of the world's largest agriculture producers, often referred to as the salad bowl of the world. Yet with all of the beauty found in Monterey County, over 14% of its residents live in poverty, and over 10,000 students were identified as homeless during this last school year. The Monterey County Office of Education welcomes you to our Homeless Children and Youth Services Program Professional Development Series. The Monterey County Office of Education's Homeless Children and Youth Services Program serves all school districts, charter schools, alternative education programs, preschool programs, shelters, and higher education programs throughout Monterey County. It is our mission to provide support, service, and leadership to all of our collaborative partners dedicated to providing assistance and support which improves the quality of life for our children and youth experiencing homelessness. Each of our school districts, charter schools, preschool programs, and alternative education schools have a homeless liaison, and their position is vital to your organization. The McKinney-Vento Act requires all local education agencies, or LEAs, to designate an appropriate staff person as an LEA homeless liaison. Liaisons play a critical role in ensuring compliance with the McKinney-Vento Act, helping families navigate the school system, and furthering the goal of ensuring equal access to a free, appropriate public education. The liaison position varies from district to district. In some districts, the liaison position is a standalone position, while in others, the liaison might have several other responsibilities, such as being a director, principal, or even a superintendent. They have several responsibilities in order to make sure students experiencing homelessness have what they need to be successful in school. The liaison needs to ensure that students' rights are being met and services implemented according to the McKinney-Vento Act, the Every Student Succeeds Act, Education Code, and California state laws. They fulfill their role by ensuring homeless children and youth are identified by school personnel and enrolled in school immediately. Ensuring the parents or guardians of homeless children and youth are informed of the educational and related opportunities available to their children and are provided meaningful opportunities to participate in the education of their children. Providing access to educational services such as Head Start, early learning programs, state preschools, and early intervention services. Securing referrals to healthcare and dental care, mental health and substance abuse services, housing, and other appropriate services for homeless children and youth. Making sure public notice of the educational rights of homeless children and youth is disseminated in locations frequented by parents and guardians of children and youth and unaccompanied youth. Mediating enrollment disputes according to district policy, providing professional development and other support for school personnel providing services to homeless children and youth. Liaisons also have special obligations to support children and youth experiencing homelessness who are not in the physical custody of a parent or guardian. These students are referred to as unaccompanied youth and are afforded the same rights as other children and youth identified as homeless. Make sure you know who your homeless liaison is and reach out to them if you have any questions or concerns. They are the experts for your LEA. Children and youth experience homelessness due to many factors that may impact their abilities to thrive. Each child or youth reacts differently to their situation, and each situation is unique. Homelessness could be the result of one catastrophic event or a combination of factors. Sudden loss of employment or the lack of jobs with a livable wage. A parent or guardian with children may experience domestic violence and be forced to flee their current home to find safety. Undiagnosed or untreated mental illnesses within the family may make finding or retaining a job or the ability to attend to financial responsibilities more difficult or impossible. Drug or alcohol addiction can be both the result of being homeless or the cause of being homeless. Regardless, addictions are one of the major causes of instability within a family. A divorce may lead to financial insecurity for one or both parents or guardians, resulting in the inability to afford housing. Natural disasters are becoming more common and can devastate whole communities, leaving many families without a place to live. Youth overwhelmingly cite family conflict and breakdown, such as abuse and neglect, alcohol or drug addiction of a family member, pregnancy, and or rejection over sexual orientation as the major reasons for their homelessness or episodes of running away. Under these circumstances, the youth is forced to leave the family home or may find it too painful or dangerous to continue living there. Serious illness or injury may place the family in financial turmoil, making it impossible to secure affordable housing. And sometimes families or youth have time to prepare and avoid living in cars or on the streets, and sometimes they find themselves suddenly out of a place to live with little or no warning. Experiencing homelessness may impact children and youth quite differently. Some only experience homelessness for a short time before being permanently housed, and some are chronically homeless, lasting a year or longer. Because of the varied duration and circumstances in which a child might be living, some show no apparent signs of difficulty, while others do. Here are some of the impacts you may notice. Lack of access to hygiene products, showers, or laundry facilities. Undiagnosed medical or mental conditions or academic challenges. Trouble adjusting to school rules or norms. Problems understanding or keeping up with academic content pacing. Lack of school supplies or clothes for school. The inability to be on time for school or attend on a regular basis. And the inability to complete homework or projects. Students experiencing homelessness may show the following signs. They may be often hungry or may fall asleep in class. They may be frequently late or absent from school. Records may indicate the student has attended multiple schools. The student may not have clean or proper sized clothes, have an odor due to the lack of showers or hygiene products, or appear to be disheveled. Students may have gaps in their learning due to attending multiple schools and moving frequently. Students may not have the supplies they need or be prepared for school. They may have trouble making friends or reluctant to engage with other children. Students experiencing homelessness may express worry about other siblings or the parent throughout the day while in school. Each year in California, over 250,000 students are identified as experiencing homelessness. And each year, over 9,500 Monterey County children and youth are identified as homeless by the schools they attend. The McKinney-Vento Homeless Assistance Act was the first major federal legislative response to homelessness and has 9 titles. Title VII of this Act authorizes Education for Homeless Children and Youth program administered by the Department of Education. The Education for Homeless Children and Youth program is designed to address their needs and ensure educational rights and protections. The Every Student Succeeds Act amended the McKinney-Vento Act. Now the major mandates of the law include all homeless children and youth shall have access to the same free public education as other children, including preschool. States and districts are required to review and undertake steps to revise laws, regulations, practices, or policies they may act as a barrier to the enrollment, attendance, or success of these students in school. Adopt policies and practices to ensure that homeless children and youth are not stigmatized or segregated on the basis of their status as homeless. Homeless children and youth should also have access to educational and other services that they need to enable them to meet the same challenging state student academic achievement standards to which all students are held. Children and youth qualify for services under McKinney-Vento if they are lacking a fixed, regular, or adequate nighttime residence. This includes sharing housing due to a loss of housing or economic hardship, living in cars, parks, RVs, campsites, motels or hotels, homeless shelter, or transitional housing, living in encampments or on the street, living in a shed or unconverted garage, living in a residence with inadequate facilities like water, heat, electricity, plumbing, or moving from place to place, which we call couch surfing. Children and youth who are under 18 and are not in the physical custody of a parent or court-appointed guardian are called unaccompanied youth. These youth also qualify for services if they are not living in a fixed, regular, or adequate nighttime residence. Identification of students experiencing homelessness is crucial in making sure these students are getting the assistance they need. Although the law is not specific as to what tool to use to identify students, it is highly recommended that LEAs use a student housing questionnaire that is part of the enrollment packet to initially identify students. It is also recommended that the student housing questionnaire be sent out again mid-year to identify any students who may have become homeless after registering for school. LEA should also have a referral form and process for staff members who suspect a student is experiencing homelessness to fill out and send to the liaison for follow-up with the parent. If you suspect a student is experiencing homelessness during the registration process, or it is evident due to the housing questionnaire, enroll the student immediately. Students who are experiencing homelessness do not need to provide enrollment forms such as verification of birth date, vaccination records, or proof of residency to start school. You can work with the family or student to get those records later. The law does not specify any time limits on gathering these records either. Students identified as homeless have the right to be immediately enrolled in school and begin receiving instruction. Make sure your school or district has procedures in place for identifying the homeless student properly in your SIS system. Once a student is entered as homeless, that designation stays in place until the end of the academic school year, even if the student is permanently housed prior to that date. Students have the right to attend their school of origin if it is in their best interest, as long as they are homeless or until they are permanently housed. If a homeless student in preschool through 8th grade becomes housed during the school year, they may continue to attend their school until the end of that school year. If the homeless student is in high school, he or she may continue to attend their high school until they graduate. So you may be asking, what is the meaning of in their best interest? Well, sometimes a student may need to move away from their school district to find temporary housing in another area. The homeless liaison must consider the age of the student and the distance necessary to travel to and from school to determine if staying in the school of origin would put unnecessary stress on the student. For example, if the travel time to and from the school exceeds an hour each way, the homeless liaison may reach out to the parent to facilitate a transfer to a school closer to their temporary location. When the child or youth completes the final grade served by the school of origin, the term school of origin shall include the designated receiving school at the next grade level for all feeder schools. Students experiencing homelessness must be provided transportation to and from their school of origin if necessary. If a student is moved to another area outside of the district boundaries, the homeless liaison of both districts will work with their transportation departments to develop a transportation agreement stating who will provide services and how the cost of transportation will be shared between the two districts. Other methods of providing transportation may include providing city bus services in the form of bus passes for older students, younger children and a parent or guardian, or may include providing gas cards or reimbursements for gas to and from school for the parents or guardians who transport their students, or for the homeless youth who can drive. Homeless families and homeless children and youth should receive referrals for health care, dental care, mental health and substance abuse, housing services, and any other appropriate services needed. Each district should have a procedure in place to decide who will refer these families for services and assistance. If the child or youth needs to obtain immunizations or other required health records, the enrolling school shall immediately refer the parent or guardian of the child or youth to the local educational agency liaison who shall assist in obtaining necessary immunizations or screenings or required health records. The two brochures on this slide can be requested from the Monterey County Office of Education Homeless Children and Youth Services Program. They have recommendations for places to go where you can get assistance getting these records or getting care for a homeless child or youth. Homeless children and youth need to be provided academic supports. These include classroom modifications, making sure they have school supplies, giving alternative assignments or reduced assignments. Students experiencing homelessness often need priority for tutoring before school or after school, enrichment programs, college and career readiness, any fees that are associated with testing or fees related to the loss of books, devices need to be waived. Community college fees paid for if a student is concurrently enrolled in high school and college. High school students must receive college career support, assistance filling out financial aid forms, opportunities for AB 1806 credit requirement reduction if applicable, and waivers for fees associated with college entrance exams. Each LEA must provide professional development for school personnel, including principals, teachers, other school leaders, attendance officers, enrollment personnel, and specialized instructional support personnel to heighten the awareness of the specific needs of homeless children and youth, including children and youth who are runaways and homeless youth. Information regarding rights and services for students experiencing homelessness should be available and visible in any location where students may visit. This includes your school and district front office, health aides office, career center, library, or off-campus areas such as public libraries, shelters, laundromats, and churches. As we stated earlier, homelessness is not the same for all students, and each child or youth has different needs according to the situation. Here are some ideas you could use in considering some of the needs you might encounter at your school site. Some students come to school without any supplies. Every year, we partner with the United Way to supply homeless children and youth with backpacks and supplies. Maintain a supply of materials for your students to use at your school. Schools should also have backpacks and school supplies designated just for students experiencing homelessness. You may also keep a supply of hygiene kits or products in the health aides office for students who need them. The Homeless Children and Youth Services Program at Monterey County Office of Education provides these to each LEA at the beginning of the school year. Schools and districts can also use their Title I monies set aside to purchase supplies as well. If your school or district has a family resource center, students will be able to get extra clothes, shoes, and uniforms there. If your district does not have a family resource center, your school or district Title I funds can be used to provide clothing or uniforms necessary for school. MCOE also has a family resource center that can be accessed by children and youth experiencing homelessness in Monterey County. All students experiencing homelessness are immediately enrolled in the school's free and reduced price meal program at no cost. However, if a student is late for school and misses the breakfast opportunity, waiting for lunch can be a daunting task. Keep a supply of snacks for homeless students. It is likely that students will experience food insecurity while being homeless. Depending on the living conditions, it is common for students experiencing homelessness to be tired during the day. Some schools provide a place where these students can lay down or take a nap to avoid getting sent home for falling asleep in class. We want our students experiencing homelessness to stay in school. If a student experiencing homelessness has accrued fees or fines that create a barrier to participating in school activities or access to materials, LEAs must either waive the fees or find other resources to cover the cost. As soon as possible, support the student's academic success by reviewing all existing records. These records will give you insight into the history of where the child attended school, attendance, prior evaluations or incomplete evaluations, and successes and challenges. Students who qualify for services under McKinney-Vento should receive any remediation or tutorial services needed and have the opportunity to attend any before and after school programs, including enrichment programs. If a student experiencing homelessness misses a deadline to participate in school activities, the school must allow the student to try out or enroll in programs even though the deadline has passed. Consider that students experiencing homelessness may not have all the materials or an adequate place to complete assignments or projects once they leave school. If they are living in an overcrowded dwelling, shelter, or a car, it might be difficult or impossible to concentrate. Consider modifying assignments for students experiencing homelessness if needed. If you suspect a student may need academic evaluation or intervention, follow your school or district's procedures. It is advised that students experiencing homelessness receive services as soon as possible. Counselors can make a significant impact on students experiencing homelessness. Ensuring they have access to services if needed is highly recommended and can make a significant impact on the student's social and academic success. Students experiencing homelessness are at a higher risk for experiencing trauma. Create a school environment which promotes safety, calming, and de-escalation. Many teachers find training in trauma-informed practices or mental health first aid extremely beneficial when working with vulnerable student populations. Knowing your school community is important. It might be helpful to know where the shelters, encampments, parking programs, and transitional housing are located in your community where students experiencing homelessness may live. It is never recommended that you visit these sites uninvited, as this may cause stress for the student or the family. However, knowing where these sites are may help you better understand the student's circumstances a little bit better. There are Monterey County resources available which schools can use to help guide parents toward the agencies they can contact for assistance. Your homeless liaison has these guides and can further assist families. Make sure your school has brochures or contact information for community resources for services such as drug or alcohol addiction, domestic violence, housing, utilities assistance, unaccompanied or runaway youth, or other needs. Some parents or guardians are fearful of revealing their status as homeless and will either not fill out the questionnaire or refuse services for their child or youth. It is important to explain to the parent that all documents are confidential and not released to other government agencies. After all, being homeless does not instigate a report to Child Protective Services unless abuse or neglect is suspected. LEAs must ensure that children and youth experiencing homelessness are able to participate fully in school activities, and that barriers to identification, enrollment, and retention in school are identified and removed. Our goal is to provide our students with all the opportunities to be happy and successful in spite of their circumstances. Remember, above all, relationships matter. Each of you makes a difference in the lives of our children and youth, one way or another.